In today's video, we're going to review our full guide on quitting pornography. I recently ran a poll on the Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching YouTube channel, which is dedicated to helping people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content. And overwhelmingly, this was the next thing that you guys wanted me to talk about. So we're going to talk about that today. And I intentionally, unlike my full guide video on quitting weed and my full guide video on quitting nicotine, am trying to keep this one as brief as possible, because one of the big takeaways I want you to walk away with after today's guide style video is how you value your time and starting to understand what your time is worth, because I think that's a key shift in mindset when it comes to quitting pornography. So I intentionally kept this as concise and as to the point as possible. So without further ado, let's jump into it. If you wind up enjoying this video, though, be sure to check out the pinned comment or the video description for my other full guide videos on quitting other various substances. We have other resources there too. So first and foremost, there is a difference between quitting pornography and Nofap. Nofap is a reference to no masturbation. Quitting porn is in reference to not watching porn. This presentation specifically is about quitting pornography. This is not a Nofap guide. And I kind of pulled this photo here from a YouTube thumbnail, day 1 versus day 30 of Nofap, because I think a lot of this is so ridiculous and so overblown on the internet. It sets up this false idea that in 30 days, your life is going to dramatically change in the absence of fapping or in the absence of pornography. And for a majority of people, I'm going to say for 99% of people who choose to quit porn, who choose to, Nofap, their life is not going to change that dramatically in that short amount of time, irrelevant of whether or not they get a boost in testosterone. And what happens is other videos, they set up this false expectation. People don't hit that expectation. They don't achieve that level of change that they were hoping for. And then they wind up relapsing because they're like, well, wait a second, I quit. I didn't attain the results that I expected to attain because these results are preposterous. And then they wind up going back to the substance, in this case, pornography. So I kind of chose this thumbnail as an example just to set the tone for today's presentation. Here's the problem with porn. If you don't already know, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're quite aware. It's super addicting. You get a massive dopamine release from pornography. Dopamine is largely responsible for a person's drive, their motivation, and their urge to repeat a behavior over and over again. Dopamine is that neurotransmitter in our brain that put us on top of the food chain. And there's a lot of things in today's world in 2024 that mess with dopamine, but pornography in particular can be quite damaging. Pornography provides an endless cycle of new experiences. You can change the video. You can change the guy and the girl in the video. You can change the scene of the video. And this novelty further reinforces the dopamine rush that people get from pornography, which is typically very different than if you're involved in a long-term relationship and have sexual relations with your partner. Chances are it's not an endless cycle of new experiences. So of course, we're now getting more dopamine and we're setting ourselves up for false expectations in reality for many people. It's easy access, both paid and free. And I'm going to say free in quotation marks because nothing is free. Nothing is free. And the most expensive thing is most likely your time, even if you don't realize that. 80% of people are watching porn on their phone. It's about 1 in 3 Americans, and it's involved in over 50% or about 50% of most divorces. With pornography, unlike other substances, you can kind of surf porn, or this is also the terminology of edging. This is the point of bringing yourself to climax and then not climaxing and then continuing watching, not climaxing, continuing watching. What you're doing is you're increasing your dopamine levels over an unsustainable and just an absurd amount of time, right? Different browsers are open, different tabs are open. So you're flooding your brain with dopamine. You're doing this over an unnaturally prolonged period of time. And now what you're doing is you're setting a new threshold for that dopamine drop in your brain, while at the same time increasing your tolerance for the drug, in this case, pornography, needing more of it, needing different scenes, needing more extreme scenes, needing a variety. So you're increasing your tolerance to get that dopamine release, and you're increasing your tolerance when it comes to the drug itself, aka pornography. When you combine all these things together, it makes it particularly damaging. The problem with porn, unlike other drugs, is you don't smell or look high, right? If you're addicted to gambling, you're losing all your money. That might not be the case with pornography if you're watching the quote unquote free stuff. You can access it anywhere. As I said, 80% of consumers are going with it on their phone. It's becoming more and more socially accepted. And we see this across the majority of social media platforms. If you've been on Snapchat lately or anything like that, explicit content and the sharing and the promotion of explicit content, the promotion of that girl's or that guy's spicy account, their OnlyFans account, it's becoming more and more acceptable. And I don't know that that's a good thing. And it's free in quotation marks. It's not directly costing you any money out of your wallet at this exact moment. Although, sure, for a lot of people, porn can become a very expensive addiction if they're doing paid subscriptions. The landscape of pornography addiction, in my opinion, is rapidly worsening with websites like OnlyFans and similar things like camgirl sites and stuff like that. And I'll tell you why. If we take something like OnlyFans and someone's going to watch pornography of a specific person on OnlyFans, there's a good chance that they were brought to that person's page through their social media content. So someone might be following an Instagram influencer, a TikTok influencer. And what they're seeing is real aspects of this person's life, right? They're seeing their home life. They're getting to know them outside of porn. They're getting to know their hobbies, their day-to-day activities, the things that they enjoy doing. And what this does is it starts to build a genuine, or what feels like a genuine connection with the person that you're then watching explicit content of. And I think this becomes particularly dangerous because now it's not so much just a stranger on the other side of the screen. It's someone that you feel like you've truly gotten to know. And I think that is one of the major problems that we're going to see when it comes to websites like OnlyFans and camgirl websites. You feel like you know them outside of porn. You feel like there's this enhanced connection, which just reinforces this whole cycle over and over again. FYI, this person could care less about you. All they care about is the money that you're putting into their pocket. And I genuinely mean that. They can say they care. They might actually think they care. But I promise you, if the income dried up and that money was not there, they chances are they wouldn't know you from any other person out there, right? Typically, when we're looking at pornography addiction, it's usually not just porn. Someone might be high on weed or high on another substance, cocaine, while they're watching pornography, vaping nicotine while watching pornography, drinking alcohol, eating junk food, gambling. I know there are a lot of websites that involve money, right? Someone gives money. The individual on the other side of the screen will perform a certain act at certain thresholds of money, giving the viewer more supposed control in this situation of watching pornography. In a lot of ways, this reminds me of gambling. It almost, to me, looks like a slot machine or something like that, or at least that's the parallel that I draw. And maybe it's a combination of all the above for you. Maybe you are intoxicated with alcohol, high off of weed, vaping nicotine, or chewing tobacco while watching pornography all at once. And you can only imagine what this is doing to that dopamine threshold in the person's brain, and the ways in which these behaviors or these poly addictions are all being reinforced by one another. And for a lot of people, if they are addicted to pornography, typically you're going to see other forms of substance use somewhere along the way. And that's been proven time and time again. A lot of times when it comes to quitting porn, and I think this is a major mistake, people typically go all in on quitting porn in conjunction with quitting other substances. So I'm going to quit smoking weed, I'm going to quit nicotine, I'm going to quit porn, I'm going to quit alcohol, and I'm going to do it all at once. I think there's this ideology behind quitting pornography that when you're quitting, it's going to be like this makeover, this big revamping of a person's life. And I don't know that that's a good idea. Typically, what I recommend to people is focus on the addiction first that's causing you the most harm and begin there. So, is that weed? Is it gambling? Is it pills? Is it alcohol? Typically, porn is the most challenging to quit, and it's usually one of the last substances to go. Porn and nicotine tend to linger for a prolonged period of time after quitting other substances. So, I think if you haven't already, focus on those truly detrimental addictions, and porn could be one of those. It might be the most detrimental for you. So by all means, if that's the case, start there. But start with the others, learn some things along the way when it comes to quitting a substance, and then apply what you learned from quitting those substances to quitting pornography. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail in a moment. Porn is usually easier to quit once you are no longer under the influence of other substances, right? So when we drink alcohol, our prefrontal cortex functioning drops, our inhibitions start to drop down. When we're high, it's kind of the same deal. We're going to be a lot more inclined to partake in a risky behavior or a sexual behavior or something along those lines. So I always find when we're working with people, I know from my own experience, through dropping those other substances, it actually eventually led to an easier experience when it came to quitting pornography. In a sense, I could say alcohol, weed, maybe nicotine consumption, other drugs might be a trigger for porn, right? A lot of guys and girls, they'll go out drinking at night, they'll come home, they'll pass out, and then they find they're watching porn first thing in the morning just to re-up on that dopamine boost, just to kind of snap out of that hangover. Pay attention to see what triggers you if there's other substances that are actually leading to the porn intake, because then maybe you need to assess your use of those. Everyone's circumstances are going to be different. So anything I say in this video, it's what applied largely to me. It may or may not apply to you. And that's super important because a lot of times people are on Reddit, they're watching videos like mine, and they're taking information and experiences from other people, and they're creating this ideology or this mindset that it's their experience, when in reality, half of the things in my experience may not apply to you. So be sure, pay attention to your own circumstances. Of course, I would always recommend just be cautious. If you are quitting pornography, watch out for kind of trading one harmful addiction for another harmful addiction, or one substance use for another substance use. If you're quitting porn only to drink more alcohol or only to smoke more weed to try and comatose yourself at night, this in and of itself could be dangerous. And chances are, if you're trading one substance for another, you're inevitably not going to wind up accomplishing the goals that you were looking to accomplish: better health, mentally, physically, socially, relationships. And ultimately, it's probably going to result in a relapse. So I either say, if you're quitting porn, keep your other substance use status quo, but certainly make sure you're not increasing substance use of something else. I think quitting, you have to start with identifying why are you watching pornography? Why are you consuming this drug? Are you lonely? Are you bored? Are you horny? Are you anxious? Are you depressed? Are you angry? Is the anxiety that you're feeling really just a front for underlying anger issues? And does watching pornography feel like a release for you on one or many of these fronts? I think it's important to identify, or at least start to get some understanding why you're watching pornography, because when we're finding reasons why you're going to quit, and when we start focusing on solutions and plans for when it comes to quitting, we want to focus on improving those things. So if you're lonely, I mean, in all reality, we probably got to work on finding you a significant other relationship. If you're bored, we have to work on the boredom. If you're anxious or depressed, we got to figure out why that is, and then what we're going to do to address that. If you're angry, same type of deal. You get where I'm going with that. Once you identify why you watch pornography, I want you to ask yourself, is it actually helping? Is pornography a legitimate solution to the problem that you're facing? Loneliness, boredom, anxiousness, horniness, depression, anger. Or is porn actually causing the problem? Is porn actually adding to the circumstances that you're in? Because the thing that's causing the problem is not going to be the solution to the problem. And this is often the trap that we fall in with addiction. The most classic example of this I'll use is nicotine addiction. Someone says nicotine helps my anxiety. And to a small extent, they're right. You consume nicotine. Nicotine starts to exit your bloodstream. After it starts to exit, you start to go into a state of withdrawals and cravings. This takes about 30 to 60 minutes. And then you consume nicotine again and you feel less anxious because you satisfied the anxiety associated with the craving for nicotine. So did nicotine solve the anxiety problem in that case? Or was it actually the culprit behind the anxiety? Porn is actually no different, right? If you're depressed because you don't have a significant other, if you're depressed because that relationship has dwindled out, maybe because of pornography, is porn really helping the depression? Probably not. Is it really helping the anxiety or the loneliness? If it is harming your confidence, if it is harming your ego, if it is harming your social skills, it's probably not helping those things. And it's important to identify this because if we can start to take away some of the perceived benefits of the drug, quitting will inevitably become much easier. Now, the next thing, after you've identified why you watch porn and after you've assessed whether or not it's actually a benefit or more so a detriment, start to assess the reasons why you want to quit. I know for myself, one of the biggest things is identification of your time, the time that it's costing you. Whether it's an hour a day, 5 minutes a day, or 10 minutes a day, it's costing you your time. And this is what I mean when I say no pornography is free, okay? Your time is the most valuable thing you have because you can turn that time into money. You can turn that time into better mental health, better physical health. You can turn that time into anything you want to. But if that time is being dedicated to pornography, even if it's 10 minutes a day, well, over 10 days, that's 100 minutes. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. And when I say to people, what's your time worth? A lot of people don't even know. They don't even know what their time is worth because they've been putting their time into so many other invaluable things. They've lost touch of what they're actually capable of creating, right? If I were to look at how I've put down weed and other substances and pornography, there's a very real number attached to my time now. You can see that in my one-on-one coaching, right? And even that number is undervalued compared to when I do a seminar, compared to when I do a brand deal. That time is very, very undervalued. I had no concept of what my time was actually worth, what I was actually capable of producing until I put these things down. So when people say porn is free, I think that's the biggest crock of BS. Even you watching this right now for free on YouTube is not free. It's costing you your time. And this is another way that porn is actually costing you your time, where you could be doing something even more valuable than this. Hopefully you're finding value in this. Of course, pornography can cost money. There can be a financial cost if you're spending money on the websites, on cam girl things, stuff like that. The physical impact. Sure, pornography can lead to erectile dysfunction. It can lead to depression, anxiety. It can lead to orthopedic problems. We've worked with people who have developed carpal tunnel, wrist pain, who have developed low back pain and neck pain from staring at a phone, staring at a computer screen, from hours of pornography consumption. And the same can actually go for social media consumption as well. Are you quitting for religious or ethical reasons? Is it relationship related reasons? Has porn damaged your relationship? Has it damaged your ability to obtain a relationship? And I want to be clear on these things. I don't want you quitting for reasons that are mine, unless they apply to you. Okay. You really have to think, is porn damaging your relationship, or do you just think it is because someone told you it was? Okay. Like, I think a lot of people fall for this trap of relating to others. And in reality, other people's circumstances don't relate to theirs. They go to quit. They find that, like, hey, this doesn't really make sense why I'm quitting. I have more than enough money to spend on this. I have a great relationship with my girlfriend, my wife, my boyfriend. And they're quitting for money and relationship reasons when that's not a problem for them. So just really think about that. For me, I experienced several benefits, and I want to talk about the importance of these benefits because they're different than anything else you guys have heard. Less anxiety, more energy, wake up easier, better sleep quality, increased focus, better use of my time, more discipline, delayed gratification, and better relationships. And I really want to talk about the increased focus, the increased ability to exercise discipline, and the increased ability to exercise delayed gratification. I really want to focus on those. And this is why. Um, Look, people can have a really good income and be addicted to porn. People can have a healthy relationship and be addicted to porn. People can have really decent physical and mental health and be addicted to pornography. So what does quitting porn, what does putting down a substance actually change? Well, it really doesn't change a lot. Just life void of a substance, whether it's weed, alcohol, pornography. Sure, you might start to get a little more clarity, a little more energy, things like that. But just taking life void of a substance is not going to change a lot for people. And this is why you see people who are, take like some of these really rich people who are like super promiscuous, right? Celebrities, really wealthy people, right? You see all these people like Jeff Bezos, this and that, they're divorced, they're with different women all the time. It's not that pornography or sexual promiscuity is getting in the way of their career, right? They figured that out. So then, okay, if that's the case and we can have successful people addicted to substances, and what's quitting really about? What's the point? I think it's the experience that the person who was addicted to the substance goes to and the traits that they develop throughout going through the process of that experience that are valuable, right? So if quitting pornography for you is going to result in an increased level of self-discipline, an increased level of delayed gratification, an increased level of focus, which usually comes when we sleep better, when we have more energy, and when we have less anxiety. It's those attributes that we gain from the process of quitting pornography that we kind of then apply to other circumstances of our life that are going to result in dramatic change. It's not quitting pornography that's going to get someone jacked. It's not. You have plenty of people who are jacked who watch pornography more than enough, who are sexually promiscuous more than one could imagine. But the level of discipline that you learn from quitting porn, the level of delayed gratification that you learn from quitting porn, the level of focus, you can now apply that to going to the gym at 6 a.m. when your alarm goes off. You can now apply that to eating healthier foods when you don't want to be healthy, eating healthier, when you want that cake, but you delay it until once a year for your birthday or whatever. It's these things that you gain that you can apply that's going to change your life. And I think this is so important because so many people will quit a drug and they think that it's the absence of the substance that counts. And it's really not. It's what you gained in the journey of quitting the substance. And this is why you have so many successful people addicted to drugs. They build their own businesses. They do crazy things that no one else would do. You got UFC fighters, you got marathon runners, you got major entrepreneurs on substances. And it's like, yeah, here they built all this seemed success. How did this happen? It's because of the journey that they went on through these other various experiences in their lives that they picked up these traits and talents. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. Now look, on the flip side, porn could definitely destroy your income, 100% destroy your relationships, absolutely could destroy your mental and physical health. And the absence of porn may create a major shift in those things. Absolutely. I just want you guys to start to think about this differently because quitting porn isn't just the absence of porn. It's about the journey you're going to go through to successfully quit and create a new lifestyle for yourself. Now, on the simpler side of things, how are you going to quit? It's like any other drug. You really have two options. You can wean off slowly, or you could quit cold turkey. You could just cease to watch porn, right? And I think this really comes down to what is your intention behind quitting, right? Watching pornography one time a week has very different outcomes than watching pornography multiple times a day. And maybe the person, maybe you watching this is content and okay with watching porn once a week. Maybe that's not a big deal for you. Maybe it's the everyday compulsive behavior that's ruining your life. And maybe moderation, if attainable for you, would actually be an okay thing. So I think you have to start to ask yourself these questions. Now, of course, we could argue in the presence of true addiction, which is about 10% usually about 10% of people who consume a substance will get addicted, a lot lower number than people realize who truly have like a raging addiction, like a crazy thing. It's about 10%. Unless you're in that category, moderation might work. It depends on your goals in quitting and how pornography is standing between you and the things that you hope to obtain. Is complete abstinence from it necessary or no? You have to start to think about that. If you've tried quitting cold turkey and it always fails, maybe weaning off slowly. Like if you've tried to quit vaping and quitting cold turkey failed, maybe using nicotine replacement therapy and weaning off slowly is better. It's no different than any other drug. And then, of course, we could look at, there are medications out there. I think it's a naloxone or naloxone something. It's a medication that they use for opioids and stuff like that, where basically they give you this medication and it kind of devoids you of the pleasure that you would get from pornography. But medication-assisted approaches are also valid. Quitting porn, the big picture, okay? The only cure for one obsession is a new obsession. And I truly believe this. This is the motto that my programs are rooted in. We're turning your addiction into your next ambition. We're not eliminating it. We're refocusing that energy. My opinion, if you're addicted to pornography, you have too much time on your hands and you simply need something else to do. I remember joking around once with one of my business mentors. I was working in my office very late and I rent space from this individual. And I see he's like, he gets in at 4 a.m. and I see he's still in his office, like 8 p.m. And I go up there and I'm like, what are you doing? And I go to make a joke. I'm like, are you watching porn? And he's like, Frank, if I had the time, I would. And I laughed. And he didn't laugh. He didn't think it was funny. He was like, really? Like, I just don't have the time. And I really believe this to be appropriate. When I talk to people about pornography addiction, a lot of times their day is structured in a way that allows for the viewing of pornography. Even entrepreneurs, even very high achieving individuals, sometimes even more so in these people's cases, because they have the ability to mend their day and their time how they want, because they're in a position in their career where they're capable of doing so. And this becomes very dangerous. So when I look at my life now, I have so many other things, so many new obsessions that I've put into place to fill in that pornography. I have my addiction mindset recovery coaching business. We have our supplement business, Kick It, Crave Less chewing gum. Check that out. Awesome product. My chiropractic business. I have children. I have my wife. I have my exercise routines. I have books I read. I have TV shows I watch. I cook. I clean. I do lots of different things to fill my time. And it's very rare that I have downtime now to where I would accommodate pornography into my schedule. And the development of these new obsessions was really a game changer for me when it came to quitting porn. I often say YouTube and the content creation that I got involved in, helping people quit things, was really one of the main solutions to pornography, right? I could sit down at the end of the night and I could shoot a video. I could write a post. I could write a community post. I could write emails to my email list. Or I could watch porn. And it's a no-brainer at this point, after years of being in business, what I'm going to do with that time. A lot of other things too, and I want to be very clear on something. People will be like, well, if only I had a girlfriend or a boyfriend, I would quit watching porn. That's absolutely false. Again, it's involved in over 50% of divorces. These people had a significant other. Porn is involved in ruining lots of very good relationships, right? Like there's nothing wrong with the relationship aside from someone is abusing pornography. So this concept of if I had someone else in my life, I wouldn't be watching porn, I think is just totally false. And the statistics prove that. A lot of times if people don't fix the porn problem prior to the relationship, it simply carries over into the relationship, and then it may or may not eventually put that relationship at risk. And a lot of people will use this as an excuse for not quitting pornography. And really what we focus on in my programs is absolute accountability. Sure, maybe that's a valid reason why you watch porn. You're lonely because you don't have a significant relationship. But is pornography moving you in the direction towards obtaining one? Most likely not. Maybe it's not hindering it. I don't know you, but most likely not. So just start to think about this differently. Start to not buy into the excuses that addicted voice in our brain crafts. On a smaller scale, when it comes to quitting pornography, advice that you've probably heard many times before, you should absolutely focus on tailoring your social media content. For me, getting rid of social media content is not something that I care to do. I enjoy social media. It's something that I've grown up with. It's something that I do business on, okay? But my social media is very tailored. If you go on my YouTube pages, my TikTok pages, my For You content, it's business content. It's motivational content. There's definitely some entertainment in there. It's some fishing things. I got some videos about my hobbies, target shooting, but the content is very tailored towards me, okay? And then this brings up another point. What is your purpose on social media? Are you there to be educated? Are you there to be entertained? Are you strictly using it for pornography reasons? Because if that's the case, you got to get off social media, or you got to totally reassess your relationship with it. Social media can definitely lead into pornography, right? There's very triggering content out there for people. And unless you've really gone out of your way to tailor that and get that stuff off of your pages, I think you're going to have a problem. But if that's the sole reason why you're on TikTok, to watch some girl shaking her ass in the newest trend, or some guy with his shirt off in the newest trend, that's a problem. You then have a problem with social media. And you have to ask yourself, why are you using social media? What is the purpose behind your intention for the consumption? And lastly, I would challenge everyone, and this is the shift that I made. Are you going to be a consumer the rest of your life? Or are you eventually going to try and produce? A lot of people will mindlessly consume social media. I made that shift a long time ago. The purpose for me of social media is education, a limited amount of entertainment, and then mostly production, right? I use social media to drive my brand and drive my businesses. And that's it. If I didn't do that, my time on social media would be quite limited. I'd be outside, I'd be doing things with my family, I'd be exercising, I would be doing a lot of other things if it wasn't for my business. They'd be limited to the entertainment time during the evening hours. Quitting porn on a smaller scale tips. Get an alarm clock. Leave your phone away from your bed. If that's the problem, put your phone on the other side of the room, okay? When you're going to bed at night, when you're in the bathroom, don't bring your phone in there. If it's a problem for you, use a magazine, read a book, lay in bed and don't scroll your phone at night. Do something else in bed that's not going to lead you down the road of adult media content. I know at first it's challenging, but it's not rocket science. When you practice these other behaviors over and over and over again, you're eventually going to become accustomed to doing them, and it's going to become second nature for you. If you need help, download porn blocking applications. Change the settings on your phone and your browsers and your computers. There's a really simple thing you can do right on your iPhone. Settings, screen time, content and privacy restrictions, content restrictions, web content, limit adult websites. Yes, it's a simple setting that you can flip back anytime you want, but it at least gives you an extra little barrier, and it's totally free between you and watching porn. So maybe when you go to type in that website, it gives you a second when it doesn't appear to say, wait a minute, what am I doing? Is there something else I could do right now? It just puts some space between your thought and your action. Of course, there's ways around it. None of these things are foolproof. The only thing that is foolproof is your mindset, period. That is the only foolproof thing when it comes to watching pornography. All these other apps, Covenant Eyes, Blocker X, whatever it is, they're great, but they are not foolproof, okay? So please keep that in mind. These are small picture things compared to the big picture stuff I talked about earlier. Withdrawal. So many people get so worked up about withdrawal when it comes to quitting porn. If you go on Reddit, this is a majority of the topics surrounding quitting pornography and Nofap. And the reality is, it is what it is. You may or you may not experience some of these things: insomnia, irritability, body aches and pains. It feels like you have the flu, cravings, anxiety, depression, anhedonia, a lack of joy, headaches, sweating, no dreams or very weird dreams, mood swings, a decreased sex drive when you first quit watching pornography. All of these things are potential possibilities. But what I want to reinforce is that it is what it is. When you set out to quit porn, if you're truly quitting for a powerful reason or a powerful goal, that goal and that reason should not be contingent upon this set of circumstances. I'm quitting porn unless I'm irritable. I'm quitting porn unless I get anxious. I'm quitting porn unless I get a headache. If you're making your quitting process contingent upon something, chances are it's going to fail, because you're going to run into something or many somethings along the way that are going to try and draw you back in. But if you can approach it with the mentality of it is what it is, I promise your chances of success in the long run are going to be significantly more substantial. Now, I'm not saying that these things shouldn't be taken seriously. If you really go into a low depression or become extremely irritable or angry or really anxious to a point that you can't function, we'll talk about that, okay? Because there's ways around that. And I do understand that that happens. We'll talk about that in a minute. How long will the withdrawal last? Again, it is what it is. We don't really know. I do think a safe guideline is about 3 months. It's about 3 months to change a habit anyways. And 1 year is a safe bet. It takes about a year for your brain to start to lay down new pathways and identify new behaviors and new patterns. It sounds like a long time, but in comparison to 20 years of pornography addiction, a year is a sliver of time. And it's not that you're going to be suffering for a year. You're going to be making progress along the way. But if you want some general timelines, I think those are the only two that you really need to be aware of. Another thing worth considering, just because withdrawal is such a popular topic, is it withdrawal, or are you just having a crappy day? Because everyone has good days, everyone has bad days. And when we're quitting porn, we tend to make everything about porn. Oh, I'm irritable, I'm anxious, I'm angry. Maybe not. Maybe you're anxious because you have some major issue that you're facing at work. Maybe you're depressed because your relationship is in a really bad place. Maybe you're stressed because you're strapped on finances. Maybe you're just cranky because you've had insomnia. Like, think about this, okay? It might be withdrawal. It might be just a crappy day. Not everything when you're quitting porn has to revolve around the fact that you're quitting porn. Like, you quit. Now life is going to come at you. And the quitting process is learning how to manage life in the absence of a substance. That's the point in quitting. We're learning how to deal with those things. We don't really exactly know what's causing it. We're not scanning your brain 24/7, seeing what's happening. We don't know. Know this. When you first quit, it's probably having to do with a lack of sleep. You're fighting cravings. You're going through a detox and withdrawal process, and you're trying to balance your day-to-day life. That's a recipe for some anxiety, depression, frustration, and irritability. It would be expected. It's something that we can expect. And this is why I tell people, stay off Reddit. You know what you're in for. I'm telling you everything that you're in for possibly in this video. There is no cheat code. There is no shortcut. There is no miracle way around it. Yes, there's options. There's support groups, which I'm all for. But like, you know what it is. So what are you reading for? What are you watching this for? You're either going to do it or you're not. And that is the bottom line. You're either going to change or you're not going to change. There's nothing on Reddit or in my videos or in any videos that's going to tell you otherwise. And again, I go back to this. Are you intentionally looking for something on Reddit or in my videos that makes your quitting commitment contingent upon that thing? Okay, like, so you're going through insomnia and then you read someone's had insomnia for 2 weeks. You read that and you're like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm on day 3. I can't do it. I'm just going to relapse. Are you looking for a way out? Is that what's happening? Or are you truly just looking for more information because this is your first time quitting and you want to have some idea of expectations, which I would never judge that. But if it's your millionth time being here, you know the deal. You know what the deal is. You're either going to do it, you're either going to sign on the dotted line or you're not. Okay. The longer you go, the easier it typically gets. Okay. Maybe with the exception of post-acute withdrawal symptoms and things like that. But that is truly contingent upon the idea that you're filling your time with something else. If you're just quitting porn, and porn was a big part of your life, and now that part of your life is absent, and you haven't filled it in with other things, you're going to be white knuckling it this whole time. And quitting pornography is going to be a very painful, very, very challenging experience. And look, when you first quit, it's not going to be like day one you figure out what you're doing and how to fill all this in. It took me over a year to start developing new hobbies and new passions and new patterns and new things. But I developed those things because of the absence of pornography and other substances. Okay. So just keep that in mind. How do you manage withdrawal during this 90-day, whatever time period it may or may not be for you? Basic stuff. Try and sleep, exercise, eat healthy, definitely find some hobbies. This could be cleaning, working, side hustles. Showers help, hot or cold. The Reverie app. This is a self-hypnosis and a meditation app. This is a great app to pull up anytime that you're struggling with pornography. Okay. So I would highly recommend downloading that app. Just instead of watching porn, hopping into a self-hypnosis can be very powerful. Support groups. The one that I'll promote is our Addiction Mindset School community, because we're not sitting around there talking about weed withdrawal and porn withdrawal and how horrible it is. No. We're talking about moving on from the addiction and turning that addiction into your next ambition. So be sure to check out that if you want. The link is in the pinned comment. It's a month-to-month membership. And then supplements are an option, just like medication is an option. Creatine monohydrate being shown to have tons of benefits when it comes for energy levels, when it comes for maintaining muscle mass, when it comes to fighting depression. KSM 66 ashwagandha for helping regulate stress. NAC, N-acetylcysteine. And you can Google this when it comes to quitting pornography, actually. NAC is something we put in our chewing gum, our Kick It Crave Less chewing gum supplement, which I would highly recommend to anyone watching this. You can find it below. But NAC in general, whether you get our product or capsules offline, whatever floats your boat, it helps with obsessive compulsive behaviors and reducing cravings for those behaviors. So I've seen people use NAC for porn, for gambling, for overeating, tons of different behaviors related to compulsion. So I think that's a great supplement for anyone struggling with addiction. KSM 66, anything that's going to help improve your stress tolerance as you're going through the stress of withdrawals and detox, I also support. It's not just because I make a supplement with it. Relapse. If you are to relapse, I want you to go back and I want you to look at this relapse very objectively. Okay. Watching porn one time a month versus watching porn one time a day, there is a big difference. And if you've relapsed and you've gone a month without watching porn and you've watched it one time, and now you're all upset because you're part of this Nofap culture, whatever it is, and you think you've thrown all your progress away, absolutely not. Did watching porn one time in the last 30 days screw up anything in your life aside from your damaging your own ego and your own, self-disappointment? Did it screw up anything else? Chances are it didn't. Okay. If you mess up, appreciate the progress that you've made and be sure to keep an objective point of view on what it did or didn't derail in your life. Because a lot of times when people relapse and I have conversations with them, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I relapsed. And I talk to them and this coming from a guy who helps people quit substances for a living. I'm like, is it that big of a deal? Like what got screwed up? What changed? Assuming we're not talking about drugs with overdose potential, okay? Because then it can cost you your life, and of course that's a big deal. But many times in the case of porn, it's not the end of the world, okay? And there's a difference between a lapse and a relapse. A lapse is a hiccup in your judgment. A relapse is a return to use in the same or greater quantity than before. And simply identify if you've relapsed, what went wrong, and how are you going to prevent this again in the future? How can you pivot next time you're in a situation where you're facing watching pornography or where you get triggered, okay? keep it simple. The KISS method. Keep it simple. Quitting pornography is not rocket science. There's nothing in my video or in other videos that you probably haven't seen before. You're making a commitment, and you're either seeing that commitment through or you're not. There's nothing special really to be taught along the way, because those are skills that you're going to pick up and develop throughout the quitting process. Like, people are like, how do I develop more discipline? I need more I need more delayed gratification. Pick something that requires discipline or delayed gratification, i.e. quitting porn, and stick to it. And you will start to develop those things. Same thing goes for working out. Same thing goes for fasting. Same thing goes for saving and investing money, right? And oh, that's a good one, because if you are spending money on porn, it's not only the money that you're spending, but remember, at the very least, you could have been putting that money into the S&P or into an index fund, and you could have been making what, 7 to 12% return on that money a year just by doing nothing, by having it sit in a bank account. You could have, like me, taken that extra money, put it into starting a business for yourself, and then creating, who knows, an extra 30 grand a year, 100 grand a year, 200 grand a year. Who knows what your time, what your money, what your effort is actually worth? We don't know until you actually start to apply it. And there's a chance pornography may be preventing you from doing so. We do offer resources for those of you guys that need additional help. I have one-on-one coaching. I have the Addiction Mindset School community. It's a month-to-month membership where we go live on a monthly basis. We have a general discussion board. We have all types of resources in there, all types of videos on helping people quit. You can sign up for that in the pinned comment, or check out our Kick It Crave Less chewing gum. If substance use is something that you're struggling with and you deal with cravings in general, and you got that abnormal stress response and stuff, check out this product. It's a great product. All right, guys, until next time, good luck.